If you've ever felt this, you're not alone. Many times thoughts arise that don't seem to have been born in our own mind. They arrive suddenly, as if carried by invisible whispers bringing images, phrases, or inspirations we cannot explain. Most people get scared, thinking they're going crazy. But Carl Jung had another perspective. For him, these thoughts were not the result of madness, but of the collective unconscious, a deep dimension of the psyche where archetypes are stored, universal symbols that transcend generations and cultures. When you have an idea that seems to come out of nowhere, Jung would say it's an archetype knocking at your door, trying to manifest through your consciousness. Think about how many songs, paintings, scientific discoveries, and even life-changing decisions were born this way, from a sudden spark, impossible to predict. Jung believed these insights were not just coincidences, but proof that our mind is connected to something far greater than ourselves. And this is where our journey begins, by looking within, recognizing that what we call strange may in truth be the soul's invitation to grow, to create, and to awaken. This thought is more common than it seems. Perhaps you've experienced a deep sadness without any apparent reason, or a heaviness in your chest that cannot be explained by your personal life story. It feels as if invisible memories, not directly belonging to you, were imprinted on your soul. For Carl Jung, this was not a sign of madness, but rather the expression of inherited complexes, emotional contents passed down through family, culture, and even humanity itself. He believed that each of us is born into an invisible psychic web, carrying not only what is our own, but also the burdens of those who came before us. In today's language, many would call this intergenerational trauma. These are pains that repeat from generation to generation, until someone aware of them chooses to face them and break the cycle. Jung saw in this phenomenon an opportunity. When we recognize that we are feeling something that was not born solely within us, we take the first step toward healing. Perhaps you've inherited fears that don't make sense in your own biography, or disproportionate reactions to small situations. This does not mean you are broken, but rather that you are in contact with something larger than your personal story. And paradoxically, it is precisely when we embrace these inherited pains that we discover new strengths within ourselves. For what once seemed strange or heavy is, in truth, the psyche's invitation to restore the life that was interrupted in the past. Perhaps you've had a dream so vivid it felt more real than reality itself. Or maybe you noticed numbers repeating, 11, 11, 22, 22, as if the universe were trying to tell you something. For most people, this is nothing more than coincidence. But for Carl Jung, none of this was madness. It was the very language of the unconscious trying to communicate. Jung devoted much of his life to the study of symbols. He believed they are the way the psyche translates what we cannot grasp rationally. Dreams, images, archetypes, numerical patterns, all of these are gateways to deeper dimensions of being. And when these images connect with outer reality through improbable events, Jung gave it a name: synchronicity. It is not mere chance, it is when something within is reflected in the outer world, creating a bridge between what we feel and what happens. For him, symbols were not mere inventions of the mind, but messengers of the soul. They are keys that unlock portals of self-knowledge, silent guides that point the way when logic fails. Thus, what may seem strange, intense dreams, coincidences, patterns, is in truth proof that we are connected to something far greater than reason can explain. It is not delusion, but a profound form of dialogue between consciousness and the mystery of life. This thought can be unsettling. Many people, when they realize they often think about death, believe they must be ill or depressed. But for Carl Jung, reflecting on death was not a sign of madness. It was part of the psyche's natural movement toward growth. Jung saw death not only as a biological end but as an archetype, death and rebirth. In many myths and religions, this cycle appears as a universal law. The old must die so the new can be born. The same logic applies within us. When certain patterns, beliefs, or identities die, space is opened for a more authentic life. Thinking about death then also means thinking about transformation. It is the recognition that nothing in us is static. In each phase of life, something must be left behind, like an old skin that no longer serves us. This process, which may seem dark, is in fact an act of renewal. Jung believed that facing the reality of death makes us more alive, because when we accept our finitude, we value the present and recognize the sacred in every moment. What once seemed frightening transforms into a call to live with greater depth. So if you've ever caught yourself thinking about death, remember, for Jung, this may be life within you, asking to be reborn in a fuller way. At first, this may sound confusing. How could our flaws, like the very traits we try to hide, contain anything valuable? But for Carl Jung, this was not madness. It was one of the deepest truths of psychology. Jung taught that inside every human being there is a shadow, the part of us we reject, deny, or suppress. It contains our fears, our shame, our impulses, all the things we don't want others to see. Yet Jung also discovered that the shadow is not only darkness. Within it lies untapped energy, creativity, and the seeds of transformation. Think of a person who is overly stubborn. On the surface, it looks like a weakness, but beneath that stubbornness may live incredible persistence, determination, and resilience. Or someone who feels deeply anxious may also be extremely sensitive, intuitive, and empathetic. For Jung, this is the paradox of the shadow. Our flaws are not just flaws. They are raw material. If we repress them, they become destructive. But if we face them, we discover hidden powers we didn't know we had. What society labels as weakness, Jung would see as potential. To him, the task of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole, requires us to reclaim those rejected parts and transform them into strengths. So the next time you feel haunted by your flaws, remember, inside that darkness may be your greatest light. For many people, this sounds like madness, like hearing voices or creating fantasies detached from reality. But for Carl Jung, this was not insanity. It was a practice he himself developed and called active imagination. Jung believed that our psyche is not a single unified voice. It is more like a community of voices, the conscious mind, the shadow, the anima or animus, the wise old man, the trickster. Each of these inner figures carries its own perspective, energy and wisdom. When we imagine dialogues with them, we are not going crazy. We are opening a channel to the unconscious. Jung himself recorded countless conversations with these inner figures in what later became the Red Book. He saw them not as illusions, but as living symbols of the soul. By giving them space, he discovered insights and truths that could never have come from logic alone. Have you ever argued with yourself in your head, or imagined how a different version of you would respond? That is not insanity. It is your psyche showing you its multiplicity. Through active imagination, those inner conversations can become a tool for healing, guidance, and creativity. So the next time you catch yourself talking with an inner voice, don't rush to silence it. Jung would tell you, listen carefully. It may be your soul trying to speak. Most people see pain only as something to avoid, to numb, or to escape from. But Carl Jung offered a radically different perspective. To him, pain was not meaningless. It was part of a deeper transformation he compared to alchemy. Just as alchemists in the Middle Ages sought to transform lead into gold, Jung believed the psyche transforms suffering into wisdom. Pain is the raw material, the prima materia of our inner alchemy. It breaks the ego, humbles us, and forces us to confront truths we would otherwise ignore. Think about the most painful moments in your life, perhaps heartbreak, failure, or loss. At the time it felt unbearable. But later, you may have realized that it shaped you, deepened you, made you more compassionate or resilient. This is the essence of Jung's view. Suffering is not a curse, but a teacher. Jung even wrote that there is no coming to consciousness without pain. He saw suffering as the fire through which the unconscious burns away illusions, revealing what truly matters. Without it, individuation, the process of becoming whole, could never be complete. So when you feel trapped in pain, remember, Jung would not call it madness. He would call it initiation. Your suffering is not the end of your story, but the furnace in which your soul is being refined. This thought is not madness. In fact, Carl Jung believed it was one of the clearest signs that a person was entering the process of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who we truly are. Most of us live wearing masks. We adapt to family expectations, social roles, and cultural norms. Jung called this mask the persona. It helps us survive in society, but it is not the full truth of who we are. Beneath the persona lies something far greater, the self, the central archetype of wholeness. When you feel that a deeper self is trying to break through, it is the self calling you. It is the sense that life as you've known it is no longer enough. You may feel restless, dissatisfied, or strangely pulled toward new paths, even if you don't fully understand why. Jung insisted this was not insanity, but a sacred invitation to grow beyond the limits of your current identity. Think of it like a seed cracking open. From the outside it looks like destruction, but from the inside it is life unfolding. That deeper version of you, wiser, more authentic, more whole, is pushing to emerge. Jung believed that listening to this inner call was the essence of psychological and spiritual maturity. Ignoring it leads to emptiness. Answering it, however, leads to transformation. So if you feel that a deeper self is knocking at the door of your consciousness, Jung would tell you, open it. At first, this thought may sound mystical or even delusional, but for Carl Jung it was neither. He believed that each of us is not an isolated fragment, but a thread woven into a vast fabric of meaning, the collective unconscious. To Jung, our personal stories are never just personal. They are expressions of timeless archetypes that appear in myths, religions, and cultures all over the world. When you feel that your life belongs to something larger, it is the unconscious reminding you that your journey is part of humanity's larger story. Consider the times you felt deeply connected to nature, to music, to a group of people, or even to a stranger in a fleeting moment. In those experiences, the boundaries of the ego dissolve, and you glimpse the reality that life moves through us, not just within us. Jung would call this a taste of participation in the whole. Far from madness, this realization can bring humility and purpose. It softens the loneliness of existence and reminds us that our struggles and triumphs matter not only to us, but to the collective evolution of humanity. So when you feel your life is part of something greater, Jung would say, you are not losing touch with reality. You are touching the deepest reality of all, that you are both a unique individual and a vital part of the whole. For many, this thought feels overwhelming. The idea that the work on ourselves never ends might seem exhausting, but for Carl Jung, it was not a sign of despair. It was the ultimate truth of the human soul. Jung described life as a process of individuation, the ongoing journey of integrating the conscious and unconscious, the light and the shadow, the personal and the collective. It is not about reaching a final state of perfection, but about moving closer, step by step, to wholeness. This means there is always something new to uncover, another layer of the shadow, another forgotten dream, another archetype waiting to emerge. Jung compared this to the alchemical process, Transformation upon transformation, an eternal unfolding of the psyche. Far from being hopeless, this view is liberating. It means you don't need to arrive to be whole. Wholeness is already present in every stage of the journey. Each step of integration, each small realization, each act of courage to face yourself is a victory. Jung would remind us that the soul is vast, and no lifetime is enough to exhaust its mystery. Feeling that your inner path is infinite is not insanity, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that growth, healing, and transformation are eternal companions. So if you sense that your journey will never end, Jung would say embrace it. The infinite depth within you is not a burden, but the greatest gift of being alive. These were the strange thoughts that Jung wouldn't call crazy in 2025. And if you enjoyed this journey, you'll love the next step. Click on the video right here. 10 strange behaviors Jung would call high intelligence. In it, you'll discover everyday actions that most people overlook, but that Jung would see as signs of extraordinary awareness and great inner potential.